Famous Maestro told Maid's daughter to play difficult piano piece, but her talent silenced everyone. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Picture this, an extravagant concert hall, the kind where the rich and powerful gather to enjoy the finest music. The stage is set with an immense grand piano, its polished surface reflecting the soft golden lights that hang above. A large chandelier sparkles in the center of the room, casting a warm glow over the audience, whose faces are a mix of excitement and anticipation. Among the crowd, a famous maestro, known for his sharp intellect and demanding standards, takes his place in front of the piano. His name is Mr. Samuel Hargrove, and he is regarded as one of the finest conductors and pianists in the world. As the room quiets down, the maestro stands tall, exuding an air of confidence and authority. But his attention isn't on the grand piano or the orchestra waiting behind him. No, today his focus is on someone much less noticeable. A young girl, standing shyly in the corner of the room. She's the daughter of one of the maids who works in the grand estate where this event is being held. Her name is Lucy. Her clothes are plain, her shoes scuffed, and her appearance is nothing like the glittering guests in attendance. But Lucy isn't just any girl. She has a secret, a talent hidden beneath the surface. Mr. Hargrove, with his usual confidence, notices her standing there and decides to make a point. "You there," he says, turning his gaze toward Lucy. "You're the maid's daughter, aren't you? Come here." The audience shifts uncomfortably, sensing the tension in the air. Lucy hesitates, her heart pounding. She doesn't want to be the center of attention, but she knows she has no choice. Slowly, she walks to the front of the room, her footsteps quiet on the polished floor. Mr. Hargrove gestures to the grand piano. "Play something. I'm curious to see if you can handle the challenge." The room holds its breath as Lucy approaches the piano. Her fingers tremble slightly, but she takes a deep breath and sits down. The piano keys seem to glow in the soft light, and for a moment, the world fades away. She begins to play, her fingers dancing over the keys with an ease and grace that belies her humble background. The music fills the room, a powerful and haunting melody that echoes through the hall. Mr. Hargrove raises an eyebrow, intrigued at first. He expects her to falter, to struggle with the complex piece he has chosen. But as Lucy plays on, something changes. The music flows effortlessly from her hands, each note ringing out perfectly in tune. The audience watches, stunned, as Lucy's talent becomes undeniable. Her playing is nothing short of extraordinary. As the final notes of the piece ring out, a stunned silence falls over the room. The audience, once full of doubt, is now filled with awe. Mr. Hargrove stands frozen, unable to believe what he's just witnessed. His face, once stern and judgmental, softens with admiration. The room bursts into applause, the sound deafening, but Lucy barely hears it. She is lost in the music, in the moment. She has proven that no matter her background, her talent shines brighter than anything the world could throw at her. As the applause echoed through the grand concert hall, Lucy sat frozen at the piano, her hands still resting on the keys, her mind racing. She had just played a piece that even the most seasoned musician struggled with, and yet, she had done it effortlessly. The silence that followed the music felt heavier than any sound she had ever heard. Mr. Hargrove stood at the edge of the stage, his expression unreadable. His sharp eyes, which had once looked at her with disdain, now held something different, respect. The audience, a sea of well-dressed men and women, murmured among themselves, their eyes wide with disbelief. Lucy's heart raced, her hands trembling as she slowly lifted them from the piano. She was waiting for something, anything, from Mr. Hargrove. He cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the stillness. "That was remarkable," he said, his tone softer than she had ever heard it. The audience leaned in, waiting for him to continue. "You've proven something tonight, young lady," he added. Lucy swallowed hard, unsure whether to be proud or terrified. She was still just the maid's daughter, after all. But Mr. Hargrove's voice dropped to a low rumble. I want to see more. The room went quiet once again. Lucy's stomach twisted into knots. More? What did he mean by that? She had done what he asked, hadn't she? She looked around the room, seeing the faces of the guests, many of whom had mocked her mere presence. Now, their eyes were filled with awe, and in some cases, envy. But there was no time to dwell on their reactions. Mr. Hargrove was still speaking. You've shown talent, but talent alone doesn't prove everything, he said, his gaze fixed on her. I want you to play something else, something even more difficult. A true test of your skill. Lucy's pulse quickened. She had already given everything she had, and now he wanted more. The pressure was mounting, and all eyes were on her. She nodded, her mind racing, her fingers aching from the earlier performance. But she knew this was her chance, perhaps the only one she would ever get. She had to prove herself once again, not just to Mr. Hargrove, but to everyone in that room. Without a word, she lifted her hands and began to play again. The notes that followed were unlike anything she had ever played before. Complex, demanding, and impossible to miss. But as her fingers flew across the keys, something shifted inside her. The music became a part of her, as if it were flowing through her veins. Each note was no longer just a sound. It was a part of her very being. She played with a passion she didn't know she had, and soon, the entire room was entranced. Mr. Hargrove's expression softened, and the guests who had once doubted her now watched in complete silence, fully aware that they were witnessing something extraordinary. When the final note rang out, Lucy's fingers hovered above the keys. The room remained still, as if frozen in time. No one spoke for what seemed like an eternity. Then, slowly, the applause began. It wasn't just polite clapping, it was real, raw admiration. Mr. Hargrove stood up, his hands shaking as he clapped, his eyes never leaving Lucy. You've done more than impress me, he said, his voice almost reverent. You've earned my respect. Lucy sat there, her heart pounding in her chest. She had done it. She had proven herself in front of the most powerful people in the room, and now, they were seeing her for who she truly was, a talented musician, capable of far more than anyone had ever given her credit for. As the applause slowly died down, Lucy stood there at the piano, her heart still racing from the performance. She had never felt such a mix of emotions, pride, fear, excitement, all swirling together. The room had been transformed. What had started as a simple challenge, a mocking request from Mr. Hargrove, had turned into something far greater. She had just performed in front of some of the most powerful people in the room, and now, they were looking at her differently. The audience, once skeptical, now saw her not as the maid's daughter, but as a true artist, someone whose talent could rival the greatest pianists in the world. Mr. Hargrove, his expression no longer harsh, approached Lucy slowly. The applause was still ringing in her ears, but the words that followed from him would change everything. You've surpassed my expectations, young lady, he said, his voice filled with respect. You've proven something tonight, not just to me, but to everyone here. Lucy nodded, unsure of what to say. She had expected criticism, maybe even mockery, but instead, she found herself standing in the spotlight, admired by those who had once looked down on her. As Mr. Hargrove continued, his words struck a chord within her. You know, he said thoughtfully, there are many talented musicians, but only a few have what you have. Passion, dedication, heart. Lucy wasn't sure if she was worthy of such praise. She was just a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, with a dream that no one had taken seriously. But hearing those words from Mr. Hargrove, someone she had always looked up to, made her feel as though she had finally found her place. He looked at her with a small smile and added, You belong on the stage, Lucy. I can see that now. Her heart swelled with emotion. She had always dreamed of this moment, but she had never truly believed it would come. The thought of performing on a grand stage, of being recognized for her talent, seemed like a fantasy. But now it felt real. The realization began to settle in. She had just been given a chance. A real chance to prove herself, to take her music beyond the confines of her small home and the dusty corners of the mansion where she worked. The next few minutes were a blur. People came up to her, congratulating her, shaking her hand, and praising her talent. Mr. Hargrove, still standing by her side, turned to the audience and addressed them. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I think we've all witnessed something extraordinary tonight. We've seen more than just talent. We've seen a future. The words echoed in Lucy's mind. A future. Her future. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to imagine it. She could see herself on a grand stage, performing for audiences who admired her for her talent, not for her status. But then, as the crowd began to disperse and the excitement began to fade, Lucy's thoughts turned back to her life at home. She still had to return to the mansion where she worked, still had to face the life that had always seemed to limit her. It wasn't easy to shake off the weight of her reality, but something inside her had shifted. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was a musician, an artist, and the world was finally beginning to recognize it. The next few weeks were a whirlwind for Lucy. What had once been a dream, a fleeting fantasy that lived only in her mind, was suddenly becoming her reality. She had received an invitation to perform at one of the most prestigious venues in the city, a concert hall that only the most accomplished musicians were allowed to grace. The news spread quickly, and people from all walks of life came to congratulate her. She had gone from being the maid's daughter, unseen and unnoticed, to the rising star in the music world. But as much as she basked in the newfound attention, there was a part of her that still felt out of place. Her life had always been defined by hard work and quiet humility. She had never imagined she would be in the spotlight, let alone performing in front of a crowd of thousands. Mr. Hargrove, who had become a mentor to her, was by her side every step of the way. He had helped her prepare for the performance, offering advice and guidance that she could never have imagined receiving from someone like him. His belief in her was unwavering, and she began to believe in herself too. The night of the performance arrived, and Lucy stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. The auditorium was massive, with rows upon rows of seats, all filled with eager spectators. The stage was set, the lights dimmed, and the hum of anticipation filled the air. It was a world she had never known, a world of luxury and grandeur. But tonight, she was not just a girl from a poor background. She was an artist, ready to prove her worth. As she walked onto the stage, the spotlight hit her, and for a moment, she was blinded by the intense light. She felt a wave of nerves wash over her, but she quickly pushed them aside. This was her moment. She had worked for this, fought for this, and now it was time to show the world what she was capable of. The first few notes of the piano rang out, clear and strong, filling the room with their resonance. As her fingers danced over the keys, the music flowed through her like a current, lifting her up and carrying her forward. The audience was entranced, hanging on every note, every movement of her hands. It was as if the music had a life of its own, and Lucy was merely the vessel through which it flowed. As the final chords played, the audience erupted into applause. The sound was deafening, the cheers echoing through the hall. Lucy sat there, breathless, her heart racing in her chest. She had done it. She had proven herself. The applause continued, and Mr. Hargrove, who had been watching from the wings, stepped forward. He was smiling, a rare expression for the usually stoic man. "You've done it, Lucy," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've shown them what I always knew. Your talent is unparalleled." Lucy couldn't help but smile. In that moment, surrounded by applause and admiration, she realized something important. She had found her place in the world. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was a musician, a talented artist with a future full of possibilities. As the audience filed out, many came up to her, shaking her hand and congratulating her. They had witnessed something special that night, something they would remember for the rest of their lives. Lucy had taken her chance, and she had shown the world her true worth. The future was no longer a distant dream. It was within her grasp, and she was ready to embrace it. As Lucy continued to perform and make her name known in the world of classical music, her life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The spotlight that had once felt so foreign to her now seemed to be a part of her. Invitations to perform came flooding in, each one a testament to her growing reputation. She was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was becoming a star, someone who could command attention, respect, and admiration. But with the success came new challenges. The world she had entered, though beautiful and full of opportunities, was also filled with expectations, pressure, and a kind of isolation that she had never anticipated. She was spending more time away from the mansion where she had worked for so many years, and the gap between her old life and the new one was beginning to widen. Her mother, still working in the background, had always supported her dreams, but now she saw the toll that this new life was taking on Lucy. She could sense the growing distance, the pull between Lucy's old world and her new one. Late one night, after another performance, Lucy sat in her hotel room, exhausted and overwhelmed. The thrill of the standing ovation had worn off, and the weight of the coming days loomed large. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from her mother. Asterisk, when are you coming home? I miss you. We need to talk. Asterisk, the message stung more than she expected. It reminded her that no matter how far she had come, her roots were still deeply embedded in the life she had left behind. Lucy stared at the phone for a long moment before texting back. Asterisk, I'll be home tomorrow. Let's talk then. Asterisk, the next day, she arrived back at the mansion. It felt strangely different now, as though it no longer belonged to her. Her mother was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, as usual. Lucy walked in quietly, her presence almost unnoticed by the familiar, worn furniture and walls. The smell of home-cooked food filled the air, but it did little to comfort her. Her mother turned around when she heard the door open, her face lighting up with a smile. There you are, darling, she said softly. It's good to have you home. But Lucy could see the concern in her mother's eyes. The smile was warm, but it didn't reach her eyes fully. They sat down at the kitchen table, the silence stretching between them for a moment. Finally, her mother spoke, her voice gentle but firm. Lucy, I'm proud of you. But I see how much you've changed. I see the pressure on you, the loneliness you carry with you. You've gone from one world to another, and I don't want you to lose yourself in it. Lucy's chest tightened. Her mother was right. She had been so focused on proving herself, on achieving success, that she had forgotten the people who had always been there for her. Her mother's words hit home, and for the first time, Lucy realized just how much she missed the simplicity of her old life, the quiet moments, the laughter with her mother, the feeling of being grounded. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Mom, Lucy admitted, her voice breaking. It's all so overwhelming. The people, the fame, it's like I'm losing who I am. Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. You've always known who you are, Lucy, she said softly. And no amount of fame or applause can change that. Remember where you come from, and never forget that your heart, your music, and the love we share are what truly matter. For the first time in weeks, Lucy felt a sense of peace wash over her. The pressure, the expectation, the chaos, it all seemed so distant now. In her mother's eyes, she saw a reflection of the person she had always been, the person she wanted to remain. She had proven herself to the world, but it was her connection to her mother, her roots, that would always be her true foundation. After that evening with her mother, Lucy took some time to reflect on everything that had happened. The music, the fame, the applause, none of it seemed as important as it had before. She had spent so many years chasing success, pushing herself to prove she was more than just a maid's daughter. But now, sitting in her small room at the mansion, she realized that the validation she sought from the world could never replace the peace she felt at home. The days that followed were quiet, but filled with a new kind of clarity. She spent more time with her mother, rediscovering the small moments of joy that had once defined her life. The feeling of being at home, of being loved for who she truly was more fulfilling than any performance or award could ever be. But even in this peace, Lucy couldn't ignore the pull of the world she had left behind. The invitations kept coming, each one offering a glimpse of a future she had worked so hard to reach. The problem was, she no longer knew if that future was the one she truly wanted. Lucy had to make a decision. She could continue pursuing the path of fame and success that had opened up before her, or she could choose something different, something more grounded, more connected to the values she had rediscovered with her mother. One evening, as Lucy and her mother sat together by the fireplace, her mother spoke again, her voice calm but firm. Lucy, you've already proven who you are. You don't need to chase the world's approval anymore. If you want to perform, do it because it brings you joy, not because you feel like you owe it to anyone. Lucy nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her mother's words settle in her heart. I know, Mom. I've just been so focused on proving myself that I didn't realize I might be losing sight of what really matters. Her mother smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. There's no shame in being content with who you are, Lucy. The world will always try to pull you in 1,000 directions, but at the end of the day, it's your heart that needs to guide you. The next morning, Lucy sat at the piano, her fingers hovering over the keys as she thought about the choices before her. She could go back to performing for the world, but that life, as glamorous as it seemed, now felt empty to her. She longed for a life where she could use her music to bring joy to those she loved, not just to impress strangers. It was then that she made her decision. Lucy would still play, still perform, but on her own terms. She didn't need to be in the spotlight to prove her worth. Instead, she would play in small venues, for people who truly appreciated her music, without the pressure of the world's expectations. The joy of sharing her gift with others, on her own terms, would be enough. It wasn't about fame or recognition anymore. It was about finding happiness in the music itself, in the moments that brought her closer to the people she cared about. A few weeks later, Lucy gave a performance at a local community center, a small gathering of people who had come to hear her play. It wasn't a grand concert hall or a room filled with the wealthy and influential, but it was everything she had been searching for, a chance to share her music with others who truly appreciated it. As she played, her heart swelled with joy. The applause that followed was soft, but genuine. And for the first time, Lucy realized that this simple, meaningful connection was exactly what she had been searching for all along. As Lucy continued to perform in small venues and share her music with people who truly appreciated it, her sense of fulfillment grew. The pressure that had once weighed so heavily on her shoulders had lifted, replaced by a deep sense of contentment. She realized that her music was not just a means to gain recognition, but a way to connect with others on a much more meaningful level. One evening, after a performance at a local theater, Lucy sat in the backstage area, reflecting on how far she had come. It was a modest venue, nothing like the grand stages she had once dreamed of performing on, but the warmth of the audience's appreciation made it feel like the most important stage in the world. As she packed up her things, a familiar face appeared in the doorway. It was Mr. Hargrove, the maestro who had first recognized her talent and guided her through the chaos of fame. His presence was a comforting reminder of everything she had achieved. "That was beautiful," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Lucy smiled, a little shy. "Thank you. It feels different now." "In a good way." Mr. Hargrove nodded, as if he understood exactly what she meant. "I can see it. You found your rhythm, Lucy. It's not about the spotlight anymore. It's about the music, about connecting with the people who need to hear it." Lucy looked at him, feeling a sense of gratitude for everything he had taught her. He had pushed her to be better, to believe in herself, but he had also given her the space to find her own path. "I think I've finally figured it out," Lucy said, her voice quiet but filled with conviction. "It's not about being famous. It's about using my music to touch lives. That's enough for me." Mr. Hargrove smiled, his eyes twinkling. "You've always had the right heart, Lucy. The world just needed to see it. I'm proud of you." In that moment, Lucy realized that while her journey had been filled with uncertainty and challenges, she had finally found her way. She didn't need to be in the limelight to prove her worth. She had already proved it to herself. She had come from a place of doubt and fear, but now she stood strong, with her music as her voice and her heart as her guide. As the months passed, Lucy continued to perform, finding new ways to share her gift. She played at community events, local schools, and even at small gatherings for friends and family. Each performance was a reminder that the greatest reward was not the applause or the accolades, but the quiet moments when she knew she had made a difference in someone's life. One evening, as Lucy played a simple piece for a group of children at a local community center, she looked out at their faces. They were listening intently, their eyes wide with wonder, and she realized that this was what she had been searching for all along. Not fame, not fortune, but the ability to inspire and uplift others with her music. The journey she had started all those years ago, filled with uncertainty and longing, had come full circle. She had found her place in the world, not in the grand concert halls, but in the hearts of those who heard her play. And for Lucy, that was more than enough. As Lucy continued her journey, she began to realize that the impact of her music went far beyond the applause or the recognition she once sought. Her performances, though smaller in scale, felt more meaningful than any grand stage she had ever imagined. The joy she found in playing for local communities, schools, and even at charity events was unlike anything she had experienced before. But one day, as she was performing at a charity event for children with disabilities, she received a surprise that would change her life forever. After the performance, a young girl approached her shyly. Lucy had noticed the girl during the performance. Her eyes had been fixed on Lucy, captivated by the music. The girl had been sitting in a wheelchair, and Lucy had seen her tapping her hands to the rhythm of the music, a small smile on her face. When the event ended, the girl finally came up to Lucy, clutching a small piece of paper in her hands. "Thank you for playing," the girl said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. "I've never felt so happy before. My mom says I can't do many things, but when you played, I felt like I could." Lucy was taken aback by the girl's words. She had no idea that her music could have such an impact. The girl continued, "You made me feel like I wasn't different. You made me feel normal." The words hit Lucy harder than anything she had ever heard. She realized, in that moment, that the music she had once used to prove herself was now the very thing that could bring comfort and joy to others. The next few months were filled with moments like that one. Lucy played for children, for the elderly, for people who had long forgotten the simple pleasures of music. She received letters, messages, and thank you notes from people whose lives had been touched by her music. It was a humbling experience. The more she performed, the more she realized that this was her true calling. It wasn't about being the most famous pianist or the wealthiest musician. It was about using her gift to connect with people, to lift them up, and to remind them of the beauty that still existed in the world. One day, as Lucy was packing up after a performance at a local community center, Mr. Hargrove visited her again. His presence had become a comforting constant in her life, a reminder that she was never alone on this journey. He stood watching her for a moment, a small smile on his face. "You've changed, Lucy," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've found something that few musicians ever do. You've found the heart of your music." Lucy smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I think I've finally found it," she said. "It's not about the applause. It's not about the fame. It's about the connection, the way music can touch hearts and heal wounds." Mr. Hargrove nodded. "And that, my dear, is the greatest gift a musician can give." Lucy looked out at the crowd, her thoughts drifting back to the young girl in the wheelchair, to the people whose lives she had touched. She realized that she had found her place in the world. Her journey wasn't about competing with the world's greatest pianists. It was about sharing her heart, her music, and her soul with the people who needed it most. And in that moment, Lucy understood that she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Lucy continued to share her music with the world, the journey she had embarked on from her small beginnings had come full circle. She had no need for fame, no need for the recognition that had once seemed so important. Instead, she had found her purpose in something much more meaningful, the ability to touch lives with her music and create connections that went beyond the applause. Every performance was a reminder that music had the power to heal, to inspire, and to bring people together in ways nothing else could. It was a quiet satisfaction, the kind of fulfillment that couldn't be measured by awards or accolades, but by the smiles of those whose lives had been made brighter because of her music. One evening, as Lucy sat alone in a small cafe after a performance, she received a letter from the young girl in the wheelchair, the one who had thanked her for making her feel normal. The letter was simple, yet heartfelt. "Dear Lucy, I just wanted to thank you again for playing that night. You'll never know how much your music meant to me. You made me believe that anything is possible. I will always carry the memory of your music with me, and I'll never forget how you made me feel like I was part of the world. Thank you for showing me that I can dream." Lucy read the letter over and over, her heart swelling with emotion. It was in moments like this that she realized just how powerful her gift was. Music was more than a career, it was a way to leave a lasting impact on the world. She knew, in that moment, that she had made the right choice. She had embraced the true essence of her art, and in doing so, she had found a deeper sense of purpose. The applause, the fame, those things were fleeting. But the connections she had forged, the lives she had touched, those would last forever. As she sat in the cafe, a peaceful smile crossed her face. She had come a long way from the quiet, unsure girl who had once played in the shadows of her own doubts. Now, she stood in the light, not because the world had chosen her, but because she had chosen herself. She had chosen to follow her heart, to let her music guide her, and in doing so, she had created a life that was truly hers. And in that moment, Lucy understood something important. True success wasn't about being the best in the world. It was about being the best for the world, sharing her gift with those who needed it, and finding joy in the simple, beautiful moments that life offered. As she looked out the window of the cafe, she knew that this was just the beginning. Her journey would continue, but now, it would be on her own terms. And for Lucy, that was more than enough.